After 2 races in Florida, round 3 of the Porsche Owners Cup Club Sim Racing season heads to Ohio to battle it out in the birth state of aviation. Jacob Abrams is soaring, gunning for 3 in a row in the GT4 class to open up the season, while Teddy Framheim looks to take flight using momentum from his GT3 victory at Sebring, trying to find another victory at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Glad to have you along for the ride live tonight on the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Devin Henry alongside Nick Schmeg up in the booth. Behind the scenes is our director, Joe Peak, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get all into the action and your race details, let's take a look at how to get around Mid-Ohio with our GSRC lap guide.
Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Located halfway between Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio, this track has become a road racing staple in the Midwest. Despite its name, one of the biggest events of the year here is usually the visit from IndyCar. The full 2¼ mile version is what is most frequently used, but it also includes a chicane layout and a short course. While each one officially has 13 turns, they do have distinct differences. The chicane layout was the only version for the first part of its history, in which the keyhole included a bus stop style back and forth jink on its entry. The short course simply bypasses the whole keyhole section altogether. The various turns have some rather famous names, such as China Beach with its downhill braking, inviting you into its eponymous sand trap, or Madness, which is a single file set of S's with drastic elevation change. There's also the carousel, and this more than 180-degree turn offers a variety of lines that can be taken. Perhaps the most unique feature of the track is that in the real world, starts are rarely taken on the pit straight. Instead, the green flag is given along the backstretch where an extra flag stand sits. Naturally, sports car racing is the main staple of the venue, but motorcycles have a long history here, and in more recent times, NASCAR has started to hold races at the track. It also hosts driving schools and days for amateur racers to get on the circuit. The Buckeye State is often more closely associated with dirt track ovals, but the amount of history and prestige in Mid-Ohio's events make it just as worthy of notoriety in the region.
There's a look around a shorter course that we have seen this season so far in the Porsche Owners Club. But Nick, why don't you take us through a little bit more about the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course?
Yeah, we're not too terribly far from Columbus, Ohio, in the small town of Lexington, Ohio, here today. And this is a short track in terms of a road course, at least. It's not quite a Lime Rock Park, but there are certainly times when you're driving this track, especially when you're racing with other people, where it kind of feels like that. It kind of feels a little bit claustrophobic. Just 2¼ miles. It's 3.62 kilometers, 13 turns here over the rolling Buckeye State Hills. Lots of elevation change, lots of ups and downs here. And those will take you through some pretty notable corners like Thunder Valley. And you've got the long straightaway there. You see the little bit of the kink there out of the keyhole and down into China Beach. We've seen a lot of problem spots there, especially with multi-class racing. With these 30-minute races in the Porsche Owners Cup, you get that all the time. And the one thing that I find interesting about Mid-Ohio is that not too many people, I feel like, give it credit, is that it is a big racing school. The Mid-Ohio School has graduated over 50,000 up-and-coming racers, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw some of these Porsche Owners Club drivers actually come out of that school. I know a lot of these guys are West Coast, but some of these drivers might have some hidden advantages here on the Central Ohio circuit.
Yeah, there could be a handful, and of course these guys, some of them are racers either in time trials or they do race wheel-to-wheel up and down the state of California. But looking here on the sim side, everyone racing together. There's no virtual ghosting or anything like that. So let's take a look here at your championship. There is 2 different series here, the GT3 Cup and the GT4 Club Sport Group. Right now in the GT3s with the 911s, Gregory LaFougue is tied with Connor Bloom, even though LaFougue is winless right now. Bloom has a win. Framheim has a win from last race at Sebring. And then in the 718s, the GT4 Club Sport, Jacob Abrams has won both races so far and leads Paul Newton and Jonathan Brell. And looking here at this course, obviously, Nick, we've already kind of looked through a couple parts of it. But what do you think tonight in this 30-minute race is going to be the most important to make sure that you hit every single time you go through it?
Well, it's certainly not Daytona or Sebring. There are a couple of spots on this track. China Beach always scares me. After the long straightaway, it's kind of the only chance you get to breathe on this track. You got to hit that braking zone every single time, and there's some multi-class racing here, which sometimes will alter that. And actually, we'll get a look at that as we take a look at the race details here as well. That we do have the multi-class action out there. We've got the Porsche 718, the GT4 class, and the 911 GT3 Cup class racing each other. 30 minutes with open qualifying, a 30-minute race, and open setups, like I mentioned. This is round 3 of 10, rather, sticking very closely to that real-life IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge schedule for some of these Porsche Owners Club drivers. Lots of these real-world tracks that these smaller cars don't get a lot of spotlight attention on, but man, do they sure put on a show.
And we do want to give a big thanks to all those who helped put on the series here in iRacing. Includes Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank. Be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And also Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. And as we mentioned, 2 different classes here today. You do have a Pro Amateur Series. This is open to all Porsche Owner Club members with an iRating above 1,500, or also pro race car drivers, and then anyone else can join the GT4 class in that matter. But this is a guy who we have seen not dominate on and off. He's had a couple mistakes, but his pure consistency has kept him towards the top of the leaderboard, and right now tied for the lead in the points. Gregory LeFouque has been absolutely fun to watch so far this year, Nick.
Yeah, certainly has, and he's had quite a few showings over in the IMSA iRacing Challenge that we've also covered, and we've seen him over there. He's not on top of the board right now, though. Like you mentioned, Teddy Framheim is the one that he's got to get around. The winner last week at Sebring. So Gregory LeFouque, we know just how quick he is, but he hasn't been able to prove it yet this year in the POC. He has not been on that. He has not finished on the top step of the podium yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. He certainly has been threatening every single race to do so, though. Will tonight be the night that he's able to break through and grab that first victory and sole possession of the points lead? Right now, we are in the middle of qualifying, a 30-minute session that will come to a conclusion here in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Your defending winners from 2 weeks ago at Sebring currently lead the board in both classes. Teddy Framheim, you mentioned already, and then also Jacob Abrams, who has just been lightning fast. It really hasn't seemed like anyone has had anything for that 728 car this year.
Yeah, certainly looking fast, and he's fast in qualifying. He's got, it's not too big of a gap. Brian Swift is right up there. It is just 3 100ths behind him back there, 16th and 17th overall on the grid. Paul Newton as well. There's a driver looking for his first win of the season. Pretty much everyone is besides Jacob Abrams. Jacob Abrams looking to sweep the season, sweep the calendar. He's going for 3 for 3 today.
Yeah, Abrams has been so dominant in that Cayman class so far this year, and his qualifying comes to a close here, Nick. We talked a little bit about the dangerous parts of this course, but of course, another part of this is tires. How important is conserving tires, specifically at this track? You know, less corners, not as long, but the race length is still the same at 30 minutes, just like we have had the past 2 races.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is not the abrasive surface like we're going to see at Sebring. I don't think we're going to see anything like that for the rest of this season, but at the same time, it's not Daytona. It's not easy on the tires either. Lots of lefts and rights and lots of ups and downs. So it's, you know, it's a little bit interesting. We're going to see. It is very cool out there. Lots of overcast clouds and a time at about 7:13 virtual standard time. So it might be grippy. They just can't get too, they can't take too much advantage of that.
As always, got to be a little bit careful on the accelerator once you come off corner exit. But like you said, with the temperatures being a little lower right now, There's a lot of cloud cover. It is about 7:30-ish p.m. right now in sim time, and it will stay that way, I believe, throughout this night. The track is going to be a little bit cooler, so you are probably going to have a little bit faster speeds than you typically would. Something that, I mean, I've seen here on GSRC a number of races now in a row, but it is still rare to have that track temperature be almost equivalent to the air temperature, both at about 83 degrees right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I would say a little bit chilly on track. Not, it looks like it might be a little bit humid out there in this virtual Lexington, Ohio. You see Bayan Salehi come around and run 5th place right now. He's the last car. He's not going to improve that finish line over there. So that, I believe, is going to do it for qualifying, it looks like.
Looks like the grid is set. And so before we take the green flag, let's take a look through your starting lineup tonight. On the pole, starting things off, we will go through your GT3 class. Teddy Framheim, last race's winner, is up on the front row on pole. Gregory Lefougue will start in second. The 824 of Renning Bruns will start off in third, and Nielsen Lawrence in fourth. Bayan Salehi will be inside row number 3 alongside Bruno Carnero. Matt Hollander will be in 7th, Eric Oviatt in 8th, Nico Silva 9th, and rounding out your top 10, Michael Johnson.
John Lee Miller is going to be back in 11th alongside Robert Stout. Michael Bolton back there as well. Jim Slavic and Dominic Cicero going to round out the top 15 and round out your 911 Cup field. Jacob Abrams looking to go 3 for 3 on the year. He'll be starting first over in the GT4 class in front of Brian Swift, Paul Newton, BJ Fulton, and Michael Ost in the 73 car, rounding out your top 20.
And looking at the rest of the cars who put down a qualifying lap at least, Michael Ryan Johnson in 21st, Doug Boxioni in 22nd, Alan Stad in 23rd, Michael Roban 24th, Jad Duncan in 25th, Dustin Heindel in 26th, Mark Rondeau in 27th, Ron Palmer 28th, Chris Lewis 29th, and Patrick Flanagan rounds out the top 30.
Just 3 more cars on this 33-car entry sheet here. John Mummeyer back in the 96 in front of David Keeter and Lane McNeil back in the 333. I see everyone here except Nico Silva. Hopefully he's able to join us a little bit later, but it looks like about 32 or 33 cars about to roll off the grid here at Mid-Ohio as they get gridded up for a fairly quick pace lap. They'll be starting actually over on the front straightaway here, unlike they do in the real world.
Yes, and this is not a standing start. These cars will actually go off, as you see the Porsche leading the way there as the pace car here tonight. So these cars will move once we get the grid set. It is a 30-minute race. That'll be approximately 22 laps here in the high trees of Mid-Ohio.
Lots of drivers out there on track. Remember, you can follow along at home with timing and scoring that we use even in the booth over at gsrc.tv. Keep up with all of the chaos happening, especially down through the midfield. All these drivers, as Devin, we're already headed into the carousel as Teddy Framheim leads this field onto the front straightaway.
Yep, these cars, they got to stack back up real quick, and some of them are staying behind. Gregory Lefougue and Teddy Framheim lead the field. It's race number 3 of the Porsche Sim Racing season.
Looks like a pretty good start for him down into turn number 1. You already see the lights flashing. Pretty clean start up here in the GT3 class. Back in the GT4s, Jacob Abrams gets a little bit sideways in turn number 1. Brian Swift's going to be able to close up in on him, and this is a long straightaway for him to be able to do that as they storm down through the keyhole for the first time tonight.
Tight battle up front for Abrams and Swift when it comes to the GT4 class, but a phenomenal jump up front. Gregory Lefougue trailing right now Teddy Framheim, who got a great jump there on the start, and then behind them, Renning Bruns and Nielsen Lawrence battling it out for 3rd place.
Yeah, both of our leaders kind of pulling away a little bit. Abrams with a little bit of a slide, but Brian Swift has already caught him a little bit into China Beach, and now they go through the very tricky S's. A lot of undulation over there in the track that they've got to overcome.
And of course, with all the cars stacked up right now, sometimes it can feel even more difficult to get around cars, especially starting in the back. but right now it is top priority to keep mistakes minimized. If it ends up coming later in the race, it's not quite as bad as making them at the start of the race, because then you make them now, you're going to have a plethora of vehicles that you're going to have to move up through. Doug Boccione, not a great qualifying lap right now in the 58, trying to move up through the field. 21st overall right now, but inside the top 10 overall as these cluster of cars continue to battle midway in the pack here in GT3.
Yeah, just right behind him, Michael Roban there. You saw him get a little bit offline. That's a car sideways on the grass. That's John Lee Miller that they're going to be able to go by. It looks like Miller just had a self-spin. So a lot of drivers struggling here early, it looks like.
Yeah, and we talked about minimizing mistakes at the start of the race, because now there's going to be a large amount of Porsches that he's going to have to pass along the way if he wants to make up any time. Now looking at that battle for third once again here, up towards the front of the field in the GT3s, Renning Bruns and Nielsen Lawrence going at it. Bruns in the blue car and Lawrence in the black car. Behind them, you might have seen Brian Salehi off track a little bit. He also had a self-spin, and actually Salehi's going around right now. This time it's with the help of Matt Hollander and Bruno Carniero. Is that another car? Oh, okay, so issue there. Plenty of issues now as Jacob Abrams will start to overtake some of the faster machines here. Way outside, just got too much gas going into the corner there. Yeah, that's a tough break for Salehi. He was already trying to regain his composure, got those tires heated up, and he was already struggling. Got offline a little bit, and a little bit of help from Hollander to send him around. Salehi finds himself down in 11th in class, and really just in front of these GT4 drivers. He's kind of split this lead, actually, between Abrams and Swift. Look at this. It's stacked up second place in the GT4 class. Chaos all around the track. It almost feels like we're at Daytona again with the amount of chaos and calamity that we're seeing right now across the track. Yeah, this is perfect for Jacob Abrams, as he has been able to pull a slight gap, about 0.8 of a second, over Brian Swift, who really lunges it into the keyhole. You can take so many different apexes through there, it looks like, and he went for an early one, trying to hold off Paul Newton behind him. And Abrams right now running 12th overall, first overall in his category. We saw him last race, though, at Sebring actually finish in the top 10, even with all of those extremely fast GT3s in front of him. They all had issues. He did not. He ends up in the top 10, but right now Brian Swift is still keeping a close look here with Paul Newton behind them. Now looking at BJ Fulton, fourth right now in his class, 16th overall. Michael Ost really close behind him as well. Yeah, if we look back there at Michael Ost, actually Dominic Cicero just in front of him got past Ost and Fulton on this lap, so he is on a tear moving forward. Oh, Cicero's, I've done it. I've done it, Devin. Cicero's in Cup class. I knew I would do it eventually. It took me 3 rounds. Hey, it's tough sometimes. These cars do look quite a bit alike, and sometimes when they do get, well, I guess besides the spoilers on the back, but once they get moving and shaking together here in a few laps, it's going to be tough as well. Right now, Renning Bruns in a battle with Nielsen Lawrence, battling for the 3rd spot right now overall, and this right here is in the GT3s. Yeah, I would watch out for Nielsen Lawrence. He has been really strong coming up forward through this race. It looks like Bruns might be a little bit more trimmed out. I see him pull away a little bit there on the straightaway, but down into China Beach, you can see Lawrence really close that gap through the S's. He's able to stick right with that 824. So, Nick, there's a lot of corners in this track, a lot of shorter areas. There's not really a ton of long straightaways besides towards the beginning of your lap. So where are some of the best paces to pass on this track in Mid-Ohio? Oof. That's a tough one. I think that's what these drivers are trying to figure out right now. I think right there, right through China Beach is where you saw him close up. I think that's one of the best spots. We see some attempts through the keyhole and turn 1 other spots, the carousel, which we're about to see them go through. It's just tough. Those are turns that are a lot tighter. Those are turns that they can get a good run through and maybe make something on the straightaway, but man, it is tough to get around someone here. As we take a look here at the GT3's battle for 3rd, up ahead, Teddy Framheim already up to a 2.1 second lead over Gregory LaFougue, which is 6 seconds in front of the battle that we were just witnessing. But right now, Framheim is looking to take that momentum from that huge Sebring win, and right now he's putting a great pace on this field.
And as we look back at Bruns and Lawrence, Lawrence actually got side by side with him on the outside of the keyhole. That just shows you just how much more downforce and wing he's got in that 302 machine back there. Like I said, or like you pointed out, really, this track, it's got a lot of tight turns. You'd think he'd be able to get around him, but even with a little bit better of a car, it looks like he just can't find a place on track to pass him.
Nielsen Lawrence, the Colorado guy, joined the POC back in fall of 2011 alongside with his father. Porsche's running in the family over there, and right now trying to run his way up to a podium spot. 5 laps down right now, or in other words, we are 7 minutes in here to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League. And right now we talk about Framheim leading the way up in his own class. Abrams still leading the way, though, in his class as well in the GT4s.
Yeah, Abrams has really been stout today so far. Had a little bit of a slip up on lap 1. Thought he might have a bit of an attempt, but second place in the GT4s might be good. I think Brian Swift might be overcooking that 718 a little bit, because Paul Newton he's hungry. He's closing in on him.
Newton almost up on that rear bumper, and you do see in front of them Cicero has made his way past in his 911, so now kind of able to get back up and trying to pass in his own category. But we see once again here these GT4s still pretty stacked up right now, although the front is still Jacob Abrams' race.
Certainly is, and they might need a little bit of help from lap traffic. I'm already starting to see a couple of Cup cars come through this field and mix things up. If you thought passing was difficult enough around here, just wait until you get some multi-class action here. You got to keep your head on one big swivel.
John Lee Miller right now, after his earlier incident, is trying to catch up to Paul Newton in this battle for second place between Swift and Newton. So John Lee Miller, this is another point of not making those mistakes early. Not only do you have to pass guys in your own class, but now you got to go and try to pass guys in the Cayman class as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times in multi-class traffic, you're working with cars that can, a lot of times the faster class is able to get by on the outside. Not so much with this situation here in the POC.
And I think by now it's probably time to know. I do believe that Teddy Framheim has ran a faster lap every single lap of this race. You see it pop up on the top right-hand corner of your screen every now and again, but every single lap is a new fast.
Keeps getting faster and faster. That's not what the rest of the field wants to hear.
Not at all. 3.5-second advantage over Gregory Lafougue, and already almost a 9-second gap to Lawrence in third place. The final spot on the podium is almost 10 seconds out of the lead. Now looking at a battle for 8th here, Michael Bolton and Eric Oviatt battling it out. Michael Bolton got on the Lightning McQueen paint scheme, I believe. So a little bit more Lightning McQueen up in the GSRC broadcast booth we have.
Just saw a couple of these GT4 guys make it past John Lee Miller and Dominic Cicero. Got into a couple of self-spins, but they were actually right next to each other. Brian Swift and Paul Newton got by with no harm, but maybe a little bit of a scare for those drivers.
And just like that, Abrams is back up to 12th overall. So let's take a look here.
This is Doug Bassione. Yeah, was this by himself? Looks like it might have been. Oh, there's some. Oh no, he didn't get tagged. He just got kind of forced off the track. There was nowhere else for him to go but to get out of there.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, especially with how narrow this track is almost all the way through. You see someone try and turn around, the last thing that you want to do on any road course is have to tow, because who knows how many laps you're going to go down. So sometimes guys are just trying to save themselves, and of course iRacing does have automatic course cut times, and so guys just try to get back on the track, and you gotta be aware of when that happens.
Yeah, they do get 2 fast repairs in this series, but like you said, a tow really kind of takes away any premise of a fast repair, because it's not going to be fast. It's still going to be sitting there for a couple of minutes.
Another battle. This is second overall here in the GT4s. The Cayman class once again starting to get at it as Paul Newton has ran down Brian Swift, and BJ Fulton is checking out those rear bumpers behind him.
Yeah, Fulton has been slowly closing back in on these guys. Newton and Swift got away, and Fulton's been reeling them back in. So it's a little bit interesting to see that happen. They're getting some gaps formed up between them. I don't see too many parts of this track where Newton is really that much better over Brian Swift. I think Swift's got the advantage here, just a very slight advantage.
Paul Noon, the 33-year-old, based out of Fresno, California, originally from Illinois. He's a little bit closer to Mid-Ohio than he does out in Fresno, of course. But continuing to battle a big battle here for the final 2 spots on the podium.
Yeah, this is the closest battle, not just in the Cayman class, but in the whole field, it looks like right now. They're about to have a little bit of cup traffic behind him from Cicero, who, after that spin in the keyhole, is trying to make his way back up through the field. He sits down in 12th right now in class, having a bad start to this race. Oh, Newton got a little bit sideways there.
And John Lee Miller is not that far behind Cicero either, and so there's going to be a number of GT3 cars trying to cut through the rest of this field. And of course, it's going to take a little bit, but Framheim's pace right now is just blistering, and he's going to catch up to the rest of these cars faster than we have seen the past 2 races.
Yeah, they certainly will. They'll be coming in a hurry. Nothing really happening over in the Cup class. They are all separated by huge gaps right now. Oh, Renning Brun's in trouble. He has gone off and up in 3rd. Did he have some help there from some GT4s? Oh, man. That is a tough break for him.
Looks like some chaos and calamity racing.
Oh, and Teddy Framheim. Framheim has just spun. This is down into China Beach.
Got into the dirt also, so it took him a while to get out of there too.
And he's only lost 1 position. Gregory Lafougue taking the lead, and not even by that much. He had a 6-second gap built up, and now he finds himself 3 seconds back.
So here's the issue here for Framheim. And the white car, a lot of gas, a lot of heat in that downhill, and that can just trick you with how much speed you have when you're going downhill like that. And there goes Gregory Lafougue. Might be the opening that he needs here to grab the first win of the year for himself.
Framheim is quick because I mentioned he was 3 seconds behind Lafougue. Already, he's 2 seconds behind Lafougue. Gregory's got the lead now in the GT3 class, but maybe not for too long.
Trying to move his way up. Yeah, not too far behind, already cutting off by a couple more tenths here. Quickly, we'll look a little bit further back in the pack. This is for 6th place overall, Renning Bruns, who we saw have his own issue earlier, now trying to find his way around Carnero.
Yeah, Bruns, just like we're seeing with Framheim, he's quick. He's just got to get back at it. You see the lights flashing there to the GT4s. Oh, look at that. They have to take evasive action around him. That's Bruns going to the out, and it's the inside. As Carnero went to the out, maybe a little bit too hot into the keyhole.
Boy, got in there a little bit hot, like you said there. Now coming down to the halfway mark, we are halfway through this race, 15 minutes to go, and we have seen a number of fast cars having issues, and Lafougue's lead is now starting to extend again. It's almost back up to 2 seconds, but now we'll take a look a little bit further back. This is 19th overall, Alan Stad, trying to move ahead right now in the GT4 class.
Alan Stad here, like you mentioned, running in 6th place. This had a quiet race back there. I keep keeping an eye on this this Cup class lead between Lafougue and Framheim. It is getting smaller and smaller, now down to a 2nd.
Yeah, they continue to close into each other there for the lead. Framheim has his eyes set. He can throw that fishing rod out there trying to reel Lafougue back in. But we have seen how fast Lafougue can be out front in these races, and that mistake there by Framheim might be what Lafougue needs to try to step up and take a win away from Framheim, trying to go 2 in a row, but there's still a lot of time left for Framheim to figure something out and still closing in.
Yeah, that's the one advantage. Oh, as they go past a big wreck. What happened here? Bassione is sideways, and I see Johnson out in the grass as well.
Nothing scarier as an overall leader there.
Oh man, Bastione and Duncan got into it. And I don't know where Michael Ryan Johnson was in this. We were just watching on the screen, actually, how he got into it.
A separate incident.
That was
team
yeah,
cars.
separate incidents. That was help from Alan Stad. What in the world? Just stacked up at the same time. Yeah, 2 separate incidents in the same corner. Separated by about 15 seconds. And the leader's got a good view of it all.
Yeah, that's something that you don't want to see if you're Gregory Lafougue trying to hold off Framheim, who has already cut the deficit almost down to half a second as we have more lap traffic on the way.
Look at that lap comparison, 7/10 quicker. Almost a full second quicker than the leader. Yeah, a little bit of GT4 traffic here in the form of Ron Palmer. And a little bit more in Michael Roban.
All the way around.
Yeah, this is a good spot to catch him on the straightaway here.
Not a great spot for Framheim, though. Has to dip in the corner a little bit earlier.
I will say that straightaway, I keep saying that that's the easiest part on this track. It probably is, but it's really no easy straightaway. That car gets very squirrely over that crest, over that slight dog leg.
Yeah, nothing comes easy here at Mid-Ohio, and you talked about when we took a lap, when we talked about the track guide and this track, these hills, as you can see Framheim going up and down. It's like a roller coaster out here.
Really is.
Some more lap traffic as Lafougue is trying to hold off Teddy Framheim, who continues to close the gap down now under half a second here as we come on back to the front straightaway. Looking at about 10 laps to go as we only have 11 minutes and 20 seconds remaining here in race number 3 of the season here at Mid-Ohio.
That's why Framheim can be so patient here. He can be patient to a certain extent. Time has gone by in the blink of an eye, it seems. He gets just to the outside of Lafougue a little bit, into the keyhole and out of it. See what kind of run he can get here. See what kind of setup difference, and if he can get any, maybe a little bit of slipstream here will help him.
And maybe a little bit of draft. Still plenty of corners here. Framheim moves out towards the top. Lafougue might have been trying to kill a little bit of that draft run on the inside, comes back up, and they almost made contact. Still close racing here through the S's. Both of them taking some different exits off the corner.
Yeah, Lafougue has gone a little bit defensive through all the S's there, it seems, which is a tough task to do here. It's tough to get through them when you're not going defensive. I'm just curious as to where Teddy Framheim, he's got to be planning this in advance. Where is he going to pounce? He might get a good run into turn number 1, but that is an awfully tough place to make it a go at it.
And he has plenty of time to sit back, watch it. Of course, I'm sure he has been already, but still 10 minutes to go in this race as we come back down the front straightaway to complete another lap.
Seen him get a little bit too hot into China Beach before. That's how he got into this position. Oh, he's going to try it here on the outside of the keyhole. He's got the run. Can he make it stick, though? Oh, a little bit of contact. Maybe Lafougue gets sideways. They're both sideways now. Lafougue's going to get back going first.
Door-to-door action. Both of your leaders start to spin around. They're both almost equal, though, coming back, but Lafougue loses or gains almost a second. Don't worry, guys, though. They're still 12 seconds ahead of third place.
Yeah, Nielsen Lawrence, his eyes didn't even get a chance to light up. He didn't even know this happened in front of him because they're so far in front. We take a look at this again. Just a little bit of contact. That's just hard racing. 2 guys going for 1 spot.
And also, that might have been a difference of opinion there, as it looked like Lafougue was trying to go a little bit later in the corner. Framheim just wanted to go into the corner then and try to get a better arc, a little bit of an apex there, and they're just racing so tight right there, and you got to wonder if that little bit of contact, I know aerodynamics aren't quite as big here, but still you got to wonder if there's a little bit of damage on either of those cars.
Yeah, so we know Framheim has the pace. Now we're just going to have to keep an eye on it as we switch back over to the GT4 as a battle for second between Brian Swift and BJ Fulton. We'll keep an eye, keep you updated there on Framheim if he can close back in on that lead. I shouldn't even say if, when he can close back in on that lead.
Yeah, he's been pretty fast here so far this season, but looking here, the battle for second place between Swift and Fulton, we've seen both these guys run up towards the front of the pack all season long thus far.
Yeah, so many competitive drivers in the sports car industry, in the sports car world, going at it, especially over in these GT4, who we haven't been able to pay too much attention to. The cup leaders are actually about to go right by this battle. Here comes Lafougue. This might get interesting. Our leader is going to meet for the only time in this race.
Yeah, the overall leaders, Lafougue in the yellow and red there. Framheim in the black and white catching up to second and third overall in the GT4s here, able to get to the inside of Fulton. Fulton kind of stuck here and almost gets contact with Framheim. Lafougue now gets through another lap car easily, and this is going to be a major issue here for Framheim as Lafougue just went through there flawlessly.
Framheim just can't catch a break. He's got the fastest car on track. He can't get by. Oh, man, right underneath Brian Swift. That's going to allow BJ Fulton to close in. And look behind him. Paul Newton gets a contact from Michael Ost. Sends him off track.
Michael Ost gave him a little bit of a nose there, and off the track goes Fulton, who was having a great run right there. Excuse me, Newton, who was trying to fight for the podium there, and he might even lose a couple more positions.
I think he will. That was the battle for fourth place back there. It was about to be the battle for third place because they had caught BJ Fulton, who got stacked up in traffic right in front of him. Oh, man, that's just... It all comes up on you so quickly. Man, just so... That's multi-class at Mid-Ohio.
That's exactly what that is. And, of course, these drivers do run in real life as well, and they'll probably have a little bit of chat as well. This is a very classy group here, guys who do know each other pretty well for the most part. We had another incident here.
Yeah.
More up.
Let's see what this was. Running Gruns. He was trying to get by Carniero. Oh, that's similar to what we saw that happened in front of him.
Absolutely nowhere to go there as more guys continue to have problems. It reminds me a lot of Daytona right now, Nick, with the amount of chaos that we have throughout this track. Is now Jacob Abrams has finally been caught by someone, but in this case it's Lafougue, but Framheim is right there behind him as well. 1-1-2 here in the order.
Abrams not helping Lafougue at all. Gregory not happy with that. He was flashing the lights at him, and this has allowed Framheim to close that gap into turn number one. He's going to get a big launch here onto the straightaway. Is he going to go at it again? Yes. This didn't work out for him last time. How about one more try?
Once again, on the outside, doesn't have that preferred lane. Might have locked it up a little bit. Lafougue on the inside, on the right side. They're still door-to-door, though, coming off the corner.
With a little bit of a slide, that's going to give a slight advantage to Framheim. This track's going to switch back in Lafougue's favor, though. I don't know what Framheim's going to be able to do here on the outside. What a drag race.
Still side by side, Lafougue in the yellow and red. Framheim on the outside. They make contact again, and they both go up the track, but they both keep it straight this time.
Through the S's, they are nose to tail as well. Getting back to him, a little bit of more contact. This time, it's Framheim that's going to go around off the back bumper of Lafougue. And Gregory's going to be able to sail away with this one, it looks like.
Under 5 minutes to go, and that is the last thing that Framheim wanted to see. But how about this close door-to-door racing, Nick?
Man. Yeah, Framheim was giving it his absolute all there. And again, just gets a little bit too hot. The back end gets a little bit too heavy.
Man, just got in there too hot, tried to slow it down, but it was just way too late at that point. And usually when you see someone hit the rear quarter panel of another car, the car in front ends up spinning out. But, you know, obviously Framheim, that wasn't anything intentional. Wasn't even trying to go for the bumper there when he's the one who ends up spinning out, trying to get away from that rear bumper.
You could see that weight transfer in Framheim's car. It just jostled that. It upset his cup car just a little bit too much there. That is such a tough break. Such a disappointing race for Framheim.
Meanwhile, Gregory Lafougue now up front by about 6 seconds and now has the opportunity to become the third different winner this season so far in the GT3 class.
Yeah, How about that? 3 different races, 3 different winners. A lot different than the story over in GT4 where Jacob Abrams is about to go 3 for 3. If he can hang on to this, he has got a big 6.4 second lead over a battle between second place right now, Brian Swift and BJ Fulton, which is still close. Big slide for Abrams, though, we just saw on screen.
Yeah, I got to take care of those tires right now. About an 8-second lead, 8.5-second lead right now for Jacob Abrams over Brian Swift. So he has this one for the most part in the bag. Just got to take care of those tires a little bit. Now we're looking back at Brian Swift, currently 2nd overall, trying to get on the podium here.
Brian Swift and BJ Fulton, they've been nose to tail this entire race. It's been Brian Swift commanding that second step of the podium. They've got Matt Hollander coming up on him. Bit of traffic that might disrupt him a little bit. And late in the action, or late in the race as well, that's when the action, of course, would have to ensue between these two.
Fulton trying to catch up on the rear end of Swift. Fulton right now racing in the virtual home of aviation. He himself might know a thing or two about that, being an astrophysicist working for NASA out in Pasadena. The 33-year-old, though, plenty of sim racing experience if you count, joining since May, being the start of that, but been with the POC for over 15 years now. Once again, stalking behind Brian Swift. This is your final end of the podium here for the Caymans in the GT4 class. Still separating just a little bit here. Only a $1:40 left here in this race to do something, though, for BJ Fulton.
Yeah, time is certainly running out as they go by Michael Bryan Johnson, still having problems of his own. Had such a good car early in this thing, too. Disappointing to see him struggle this much. Been close in terms of how many laps they've got left. Looking at the time.
Ooh, trouble behind LaFougue there. Glad to have that in the rear view instead of out the front mirror,
yes,
or windshield, I should say.
Framheim, meanwhile, has lost second place to Nielsen. Framheim went off, it looked like. Framheim got a bit of damage. He made contact with Chris Lewis, the GT4 car. Big contact. Sent him straight into the guardrail.
Looks like he has a fair amount of damage there on that right front as well. So it's been a difficult day for the Sebring winner here. Trying to come around lap traffic just like here as we watch on the replay. Gets into the rear end, more damage on the right front, and then also probably some skids on the door as well on the driver's side.
The tough break as Gregory LaFougue, meanwhile, is the leader going through Thunder Valley. Just a few turns left for him. Looks like this will be the final lap for him.
How about what Gregory LaFougue has went through? He's been a competitor in both races so far, losing to Connor Bloom in the first race at Daytona. Couldn't keep up with Framheim in race number 2 at Sebring, but now, after a couple of issues for Framheim, it's going to be Gregory LaFougue becoming the 3rd different winner in the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing Series. Gregory LaFougue goes to victory lane here at Mid-Ohio. Jacob Abrams as well. He's a little bit further back on the track, but it looks like it's going to be a perfect now 3-for-3 here in the POC.
Battle for second still brewing. Brian Swift and BJ Fulton coming out of the last turn. BJ Fulton, he's going to have to settle for that 3rd place position. He can't quite get up there and get around him. But a great run all the way to the finish. P9 over in the Cup class, good. This is Bruno Carniero, who had a couple of issues of his own. He goes off track. That's going to allow John Lee Miller to slip in underneath, and oh man, straight into the barriers there for Bruno Carniero.
And that might mean major damage, and just like that, his hopes of a top 10 might also fall along with that. And now an issue as well. Man, these cars have an issue here on the final lap.
Yeah, who is that in front? Is that... Yeah, that's John Lee Miller. I see Jim Slavic right in between him. But all of these drivers, some of these drivers coming across the line, finishing strong. Some of them kind of limping across the line. Glad that this sprint race is over.
And only race number 3 of this season. We have plenty more races coming up. We have a longer season for season number 2 of the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League. Well, we'll take a break. We will take you through the entire finishing grid here from Mid-Ohio and talk to a few of our winners as well here on GSRC. Gregory LaFougue becomes the 3rd different winner on the year in the GT3s. And then also, boy, Jacob Abrams continues his tear, taking race number 3 in a row. As we go through the field here, Gregory LaFougue with the win. Nielsen Lawrence comes out in 2nd. Teddy Framheim will end out your podium in 3rd. Matt Hollander takes home 4th. Michael Johnson in 5th. Brennan Bruns comes home in 6th. Eric Oviatt in 7th. Michael Bolton 8th. John Lee Miller 9th. And Jim Slavic in 10th.
Bruno Carniero, saw him have a disappointing last lap there. He winds up down in 11th place. It is Dominic Cicero, another tough break for him today. He finishes a lap down. But behind them, it's going to be the winner over in the Caymans. It's Jacob Abrams, Brian Swift, BJ Fullen, Michael Ost, and Paul Newton finishing in the top 17, top 5 over there in the class. Bayan Salehi down there mixed in as well, 18th. And then Alan Stad and Michael Roban will round out your top 20. A couple other drivers down the list. Dustin Heindel, Jad Duncan, and Doug Bastione all finishing on the lead lap over there in the Caymans. After that, you've got some drivers who struggled today and just a couple of DNFs today. Robert Stout, I believe, is the only one. Nico Silva never took the grid, so a fairly clean race for a lot of these drivers, despite all of the cars we saw off track. Devin, looks like we've got quite a few drivers to talk to, starting with our winner. You've caught up with Gregory LaFougue.
Yeah, we got to chat with the winner, the 3rd different winner this year overall, finally able to get that win. But Gregory, I know it's been a long time coming through those first 2 races. How does it feel to finally grab that win here in the Porsche Owners Club? Looks like a quick technical issue there with Greg.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Now, I still want that excitement, though. How about that first win of the season?
Yeah, it feels great to be here. And this one was a fight. Teddy was definitely faster than I was. I spent a lot of time prepping for the IMSA race last week, and kind of fell a little bit behind on the prep for this race. And I think he put in the work, and it showed. I don't think I had anything for him. Not too sure what happened and how I got in front of him, but then he was so quick. I was struggling a lot on the brakes, and then we went at it pretty hard. So it felt good to be here.
Well, you guys had some fantastic battles between you and Teddy. Can you take us through some of those as you guys were banging doors, banging fenders, and more? I don't think you were supposed to do those in Porsches.
Well, yeah, I think we had 3 contacts overall. The first one I kind of locked up, loosened up a little bit, and got into him. The second one, I think we were just racing hard, and basically there was almost no consequences to this one. And then after that, I think he bumped me in the rear a little bit, and not too sure why he spun there. Didn't feel like a super hard bump, and I'll take it. But he's definitely a fast driver.
Well, it was an exciting race to watch. You now have sole ownership of the points lead right now in the Porsche Owners Club. Who do you got to thank for this performance here? Win number 1 on the season tonight.
Obviously Matt for putting this on, and the POC Club, looking forward to the next rounds.
Gregory Lafougue takes home his first win of the second season. Thanks, Gregory, and congrats. Now we'll head on over. It looks like Nick has caught up with our other class winner tonight, Jacob Abrams.
Have indeed. Jacob Abrams starting the season 3 for 3. Looking like he's going to have a perfect season, Jacob. I know you'd like that. I don't know just how much that's capable, just how much you're capable of it. But so far, you're definitely proving that you are 3 for 3 to start the year. You couldn't have asked for much better, and quite a dominant race over in your class, it looked like.
I definitely worked hard practicing on getting this track figured out, and kind of took me back to my roots a little bit in, karting endurance races. That's kind of what it feels like, a go-kart track. So I was right at home here.
Yeah, lots of ups and downs, lots of tight and technical turns. I would definitely see the relation to karting. Saw you sideways a couple of times, even with a lead. Were the tires really heating up out there, or just the nature of this track kind of catching you out a couple times?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, the tires do heat up pretty easily because you're wearing out those left sides, a lot. But also, there's a lot of places where if you're, turning in 6 feet too late or something, you're just going to unsettle the car, and it's really easy to make a mistake here. So, my whole focus was just minimize the mistakes, and I figured if I do that, I could do pretty well, and it turned out okay.
Yeah, you got to the first 2 rounds of this series, you got to lean on that right side pedal quite a few times, Daytona and Sebring. Maybe not so much today, but in a couple of weeks' time at Watkins Glen, you'll get another opportunity to do that. Is that a track you're feeling confident going 4 for 4 at?
Yeah, I think I got a good chance. I ran there last week at the IMSA race, and I know one thing. I know exactly what the wrong setup for the car is there. So by process of elimination, I should be okay next time.
There you go. Just flip the switch, do the opposite. You got it.
Exactly.
Well, Jacob, thanks for stopping by, and well, not much more I can say. Congrats on you, just another dominant performance.
Yeah, thank you, and I wanted to thank Works Through Motorsport and POC for putting this on. Thanks, guys.
Awesome stuff. That's Jacob Abrams coming home with the win once again over in the GT4 class. Now, Devin, you've caught up with another driver. This is a driver who finished second place, actually, in the Cup class, Nielsen Lawrence.
Second place overall, yeah. Nielsen Lawrence comes home in P2. And my first question, Nielsen, there was a lot going on in front of you. Were you able to see any of what was going on in front of you, or did at 1 second Teddy Framheim was behind you and you're going, well, okay, then P2 it is?
I kind of saw Teddy had a couple problems, right, and I could kind of smell blood in the water, so I started pushing a little bit harder. And then I saw he kind of went off just before the last corner, and I was like, well, this is my chance. And I turned it up, and thank God, we got the white flag, because I don't think I could have held Teddy behind me. He's a really quick driver, and I just got kind of lucky.
Well, a consistent race tonight. We're talking about how you're from Colorado, so the tracks aren't necessarily the same track as you would in Ohio, but how did this track here treat you tonight with the roller coaster-like hills?
Yeah, this track is super technical. It kind of harkens back to my roots of racing, in California on Streets of Willow. Very technical track, a little bit of elevation change. This car comes up over a couple of these bumps, really unsettles it. It's off camber, and makes the car very sporty. But I figured if I just kind of kept my foot out of it, I could get it to hook up, minimize a few mistakes, and it worked out in my favor tonight.
Well, bringing it home, P2, a great finish, some consistent driving. Who do you got to thank for this performance here tonight?
I just got to thank my family, my mom, my dad back home watching. My cousin, she's actually here watching me race tonight, so she had to sit through this rather than be entertained by me. But, and my friends out in North Carolina, super, super big support system. Can't thank them.
Well, the Lawrence performance, Porsche comes home in second. Nielsen Lawrence, thank you for joining us, and congrats on the P2 finish. Next, we'll head on over. Looks like Nick has went and caught up with Brian Swift.
I have indeed, and it wasn't quite a race for the win, for Brian Swift, but it might feel like a win. Brian, you were able to hold off BJ Fulton that whole race. You were nose to tail with him. Had one heck of a battle that entire 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was one heck of a race from my perspective. I lost Jacob's taillights very early on, so just kind of focused on minimizing mistakes and trying to manage the tires late in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Managing tires, one thing. Managing traffic was another. How difficult was that? Maybe at Daytona or Sebring, it's a little bit quicker to get to have the faster cars get by you. Here at a more technical track, it's hard enough to pass within your class, let alone let some faster, wider cars get by you.
Yeah, it's definitely tough with the elevation changes. A little bit offline, and it's a very difficult track to maneuver. But fortunately, the guys in the Cup cars were excellent drivers, and we didn't really have too many issues.
And now I already asked Jacob Abrams this question, the guy that finished quite a few seconds ahead of you. I've got to ask you, at Watkins Glen in a couple weeks' time, do you think you can take it to him there? A little bit more popular track, maybe with a little bit of slipstream. Maybe you can keep up and maybe challenge him for a victory?
We'll definitely do our best and give it a shot.
Awesome stuff. Would love to see that. Before we let you go, real quick, any shout-outs or thank yous you want to give?
I just want to thank Matt and POC for putting this on, and then my wife for letting me dedicate so much time to practice.
Absolutely. Certainly paid off today because you wound up P2 in your class. So congrats on that. Stand tall on that podium for us, and hopefully we get to see you in the booth here once again.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Brian Swift, who winds up in second place, like I mentioned, over in the GT4s, over in the Caymans. And one last interview here. It looks like, Devin, you've caught up with the guy who had a lot of pace, but things just all kind of fell apart at the end for Teddy Framheim.
Yeah, a lot of speed showing off once again here in this series, but Teddy Framheim has to settle for the bottom of the podium, third. I know, not necessarily what you were going for there, but third, another great finish. But man, take me through some of that battling with Gregory LaFougue.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'd have to go back and watch what happened the first time going into turn 2. I know I had the corner pretty well nailed on the brakes, but he came up into me. Maybe he locked up or something like that. Bit more side-by-side action later on, but indeed, it was my own mistake that put me back in the pack like that.
Will still had a ton of speed coming off that victory from Sebring. Heading to Watkins Glen next. What are your thoughts there on that track as that comes up here 2 Mondays from now?
Oh, that's actually interesting. I wasn't sure which track was coming next, but given I just drove that last week with IMSA, hopefully that'll be okay. Should be fun.
Well, another great finish coming home in third place. Teddy, who do you got to thank for your performance here tonight?
Thanks to Matt and the POC for putting these things on. Thank you, obviously, to you guys, too, for broadcasting. And thanks, as always, to my wonderful wife at home.
Well, another fun one here tonight. Teddy, you still got speed coming home third, though, tonight. Thanks for your time. Congrats on the finish, and we'll see you in a couple more Mondays.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we got one more coming on up here. Nick is now caught up with the final podium spot with BJ Fulton.
Only fair to give credit to both of our, all 6 of our podium finishers, I should say. And BJ Fulton did wind up on the podium down in the Caymans, and it wasn't, he almost got the second step of the podium down there. It was a hard fight with Brian Swift there towards the end. Just came up short, couldn't quite get around him. BJ, you got a copy? Have some technical difficulties with him, so see if we can get him here one more time. BJ, can you hear us? All right. So unfortunately, not going to be able to talk to our third place finisher down in the GT4s. But with that, I'm going to set it back here to Devin Henry to close things out for us.
Well, another fun one. Like we said, we'll see you in 2 Mondays from now. But first and foremost, we got to give a big thank to those who are able to help us put this on. And that includes Sunset Mortgage, Octavio Tequila, and Century Financial Consultants. And of course, our organizer, the Porsche Owners Club. A big thank you to them and letting us broadcast this great series. And also a thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. They're listed right here for you on your screen. And of course, an additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen on the bottom for more of how to get a hold of her and more of her great work. And of course, a big thanks to the team today with Nick and our producer, Joe Peak. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, on Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And if you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page. You know you want to go hit that big red subscribe button so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Our next race in this Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League will be on June 29th. We're going to be on the boot at Watkins Glen, and that will be every other Monday here on GSRC, is the POC Sim Racing League. We also have a ton of other races this week and more series listed up on your screen. If you're interested in a few things like the Sunday Grand Prix series, be sure to mark those down on your calendar or check them out anytime on our YouTube page. And until next time, guys, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you at the track.